Well, good morning, everybody. We are finally back. So we are working on the kitchen today, and I've actually got a few jobs that I want to get accomplished today. I'm just going to share them with you, and what we get done is what we get done. We got a busy evening ahead of us, planned for church stuff, and so we're going to be working on the kitchen this morning here at the house. But anyways, let me show you what we've got done. Just in case you haven't seen the last video, we got the drywall around the soffit. We actually got it insulated, so inside of here is 1-inch styrofoam insulation, and that keeps the sound around the vents from being as loud as they were. So it's just a little help there. And then we got the wall framed for the closet right there. One of the jobs we're gonna have to come do is put a new pressure relief valve in the water tank because it is leaking, and so it's causing a puddle right there. And we don't want a puddle, especially once we get the new flooring put in. And so we're gonna get a new pressure relief valve, and I'll probably show you how to do that. It's really simple. That's actually a new one that was defective, so I had to buy another one. And then I need to put in I'm not even sure what they're called. I probably should know. I probably should have thought about it before I started this, but there's a tank that you can buy, and it's full of air, has a bladder inside, and it keeps the pressure in the water system from fluctuating. Well, it does fluctuate. It keeps it from making noises and from ruining your pressure relief valve. It absorbs like kind of shock absorber for the water, and so you don't get a lot of noisy water sounds, and it keeps the pressure regulated in your tank. So it's a little tiny tank that goes up on the cold water line. So we're going to end up putting a T in there, putting a tank up, and then you pressurize it according to how much pressure your city water has. So you stick a little pressure gauge on your water, stick it outside, and it'll turn it on and tell you. It's usually like 70 pounds or something like that per square inch. But anyways, the job I'm going to start with today is putting another light right above the stove. And so this morning I've been cleaning out the kitchen. That way I have space to work, because we're going to be insulating the ceiling and putting drywall up. But before I do that, I have to pull all the electrical that's left. So we've got a light fixture put up above the stove. That way it lights it up nice and bright. It's a little dark over there. And then we need to pull a 15 amp circuit from one that's already existing, hanging down right there. You can't see, across all the way to where it used to be attached. Well, there used to be a wall right here, and in that wall there was a 15 amp circuit that dropped down in here and then went across and then piggybacked all the way across. So now the first outlet's there, and the wire just goes behind the fridge, and I have it temporarily wired into the kitchen circuit, but it's not going to be attached to the kitchen circuit. And so we're going to detach it, run a new wire up and across. So we gotta do that before we can insulate. But I'm gonna start out with installing the light fixture, because I have an extra one. And well, I have an extra one because I bought it to do this. So I need to do that. So let me show you how to do that real quick, and we'll get started. I'll probably just show you how to do all these things. That way, if you're curious, you'll know how. So first thing I did was set up the camera. So let me do that without making it too noisy. Ta-da, camera set up. Okay, I've marked the center of the stove, and so there's a mark here on this joist and here on this joist, and I'm going to nail the box up there first. So let me go get that. And this is what it looks like. It's got two of these legs on it, and they extend. So if you have a joist that is between the joist is wider than you want, you just pull these apart and then nail this end and this end to it. Or if it's shorter, you just push them in, so like that. And then you take the center mark, you can measure over it and place a mark on this side and that side, so you know it's exactly center. But I just push this all the way to the end. That way I know it's as tight as possible, and then I put the center mark on the center of the light. So stick it up like so, and then nail it up, and then I'll show you how to wire it in a second. So just in case you saw me take off this board and you wonder what the purpose of it is, if I wasn't lazy, I would go on to Google and remember the name of what they're called. But I know what they're used for, so I'm going to explain that to you while I have this in my hand. So as you can tell, they go as a little X brace, probably called X braces, I don't know. They keep the spacing of the floor joist at a certain distance apart because these are cut from here to here perfectly. That way when you nail them on, it goes the top to the bottom, top to the bottom. The main purpose of these is to keep your floor joists from falling over. And so they're more important when the house isn't complete, but they are important still. But knocking one out isn't going to affect the structure of the house. The reason I knocked it out is because the light fixture is going right there. I could put it back up on the other side, but I'm not going to worry about it because there's plenty of structure to hold it from falling over. But in a heavy wind, they call it racking when a house wants to fall over because the wind blows on it. And so the plywood you nail on the outside of the wall, called sheeting or OSB, on the side of the wall, will keep your house from racking or falling over. But these also help between the floors so you don't have that little Jenga effect and the whole house falls over. So these are made to support, to keep those from falling over. But taking one out like this isn't a huge deal. If I was really thorough, I could stick it back up on the other side, but I'm not going to worry about it. So next up, wire the light. So I'm going to try to make this video as less boring as possible, if that's good English or not, less boring. But I still want to show you how to do things kind of in detail. That way, if you want to do it, you can. So let me flip you around and show you how to wire up a light real quick. It's real simple. Here we go. Stick you on a stand and let you watch me do it. This is what's going on. So we've got the fixture itself nailed on the center line. So there's a center line, that black line right there. And over here, right there, camera's not picking up too well. And that centers it above the stove. Now, as far as where it goes this way, you can slide this back and forth. I wanted it all the way up against that because the cabinets themselves, the upper cabinets come out about 1 foot, and I wanted this 1 foot farther out. And so that's a 2 foot mark, exactly where it's at, centered above the stove. And then on the back here, there's this little panel and it clips into there. But inside of this panel is the black wire, the green wire, and the white wire. White wire is neutral. I won't explain what they all do, but the black wire is the hot wire. That's the one that will shock you if you touch it. And the green wire is for the ground, but they come with these nifty little ends on them where you can just shove the wires in. I'll show you how to do that in a second. We've got the wire run through the joist. We just drilled a little 5/8 hole there, fed it through, and then we have it stapled as close to the box as possible. They like to be within 6 inches of whatever you're connecting to. So if it's a light switch box or whatever, just staple it pretty close. Usually 6 to 8 inches is what they're requiring, but it goes back through and goes up to the other light that is already wired, and it's going to be piggybacked off of that because this light's going to turn on same time as this one. And so you can see the wire coming down from up there, poking through that wire insulator up there, and then we'll strip the insulation off of this. The white part is called the insulation. That goes around the wires. I'll move this one because that one's hard to see with the light on. But we're going to put one of these babies on. So if you can see where my finger's pointing. See that little nut and that little thing poking through? On the top here, there's these 2 little screws, and that will tighten and clamp that together. The reason you want this is because you don't want this wire up against this metal. And so if it were to move back and forth on this metal, eventually it would cut through and it would spark against it, and you'd have a short, could possibly have a fire and all that kind of stuff. So you put a wire insulator, they're called, up there, and then once you get it all set in place, tighten these screws down and it clamps it together there. So now our next step is to cut the white off of this and then spread all these wires apart and then strip the ends and then plug them into here. So I'll set you up on the refrigerator over here and you can watch me do that real quick. It's gonna be boring, stick with it. You got this. So I'm gonna need actually I'm gonna take a screwdriver, wherever I put that baby, and I'm gonna tighten that wire insulator up. That way the wire doesn't move around on me. So just tighten one at a time until they're both snug. And that's how you do it. Pretty simple. But in the meantime, while I'm tightening these, I'll tell you a joke. My nephew loves this joke. Do you know why a duck has feathers? It's to cover his butt quack. Anyways. It's way funnier when he tells it. So, if you're watching little nephew, That's for you. So, okay, now that this is tight, put the screwdriver down, take a nice sharp razor knife out, and I'm just going to score the jacket on this from the top to the bottom. I've been cutting drywall with this blade, so it's a little dull, but you don't want to cut so deep that you just cut into all the wires, but enough to cut the insulation off. So get it scored on one side, and then you can spread it apart like that, and then just pull it back all the way up to the top. And then once you get it separated from the wires, so the wires here, a little extra insulation on the inside, pull that back, and then just cut it off as high as you can in the box. And so that's what the insulation looks like. Once you got that done, you're gonna have your 3 wires just like you have in the box, and you're gonna match them up together. And so I just take a pair of Kleins. These are probably the top of the line snips. In my opinion, they do really well, but they've got holes on them for different gauges of wire, and they've got holes for other things that you can use too, and they're spring loaded, so they're really handy. But you just take it, stick it on the proper hole. So this is a size 14 wire, and so just go to the 14 hole and stick it on, and probably about a 1/2 inch up, and then slide it away from the jacket, and it'll expose the end of the wire like that. You only have to do 2 because the ground never has a insulator on it. Well, I won't say never, it usually doesn't. And then once you have all those in there, you take your color, so this is black, plug it in to the black one. You just push it in and try to pull it out. If it doesn't pull out, then you've got it pushed in far enough. And then you take green and go to your ground, and then your white, which is your neutral, and plug it in. And that will finish up this side of the connection. So then you just want to grab them all as neatly as possible and kind of fold them. I like folding them in a clockwise direction and then pushing them in the box, making sure they're not kinked or up against something that you don't want it to be rubbing against. And then you just push this little gate closed, and that light is wired and ready to go. Now I just need to do the box on this side, which is the live one, which is hot. The cool thing about those connectors is that even if you touch, you can't really touch the bare wire, because unless you're touching the bare wire as you slide it in, you're not going to get shocked. So you can wire the light live, like on, or you can wire it and just turn it off and use a light, like a flashlight or something. But since it's easy to do live, I'll just have all the lights on, strip the wire, plug it in, do the same thing I did right here. The reason I did this one first instead of that one is because if I were to do that one, that makes these wires live. So when I strip them, I would be working with hot stuff, and I don't want to be working with hot wires over here, because I could touch them. Over there, I don't worry about it. Probably something you probably have to see when you do it yourself. So anyways, I'm gonna wire that up, get this light working. Okay, we're back on this side. That light is wired, and so this box is now live. If I were to stick my finger up in that where you screw the bulb in, you get a little shock. So don't stick your finger up there, or turn the light switch off when you're doing this. This isn't super dangerous, and I'll explain why. But anyways, I forgot to mention that before you stick the insulator piece in, that those 2 screws tighten down the wire. There's little knockouts. They look like little nickels. When I was a kid on my dad's job sites, I would go collect these because I was like, man, they're probably worth something. They look like a nickel. They're not worth anything, just so you know. But they are fun to collect and stack and play with. So inside of this box, this is the light, actual light itself. It's going to come with the LED fixture, and then on the back of this, it's got an adjustable switch. Pick which lighting option you like. I'm going with the second to the brightest, so soft white, I believe. I'll make sure it matches when I turn it on. I'll preset that, and then inside the box, there's this little pigtail, and the pigtail has a threaded bit, like a light bulb would have, and because you can put light bulbs in these, but I prefer the LEDs because they just look better, they're more efficient, last way longer, adjustable, all kinds of stuff. It's great. So you're gonna screw this up in there like a light bulb, and then plug this bit into that. So let's screw this up here. Screw it up. I'm going to make it work, not screw it up, but you know what I mean. So that's in there, and then this only goes in one direction. Click it in there, and you have light. And then just twist that wire up in there like you do with the other ones, and push it. This just has these little tabs that press up against that. So no matter how thick your drywall is, it fits up nicely. So let's see what that looks like from down below.
Here's all the lights off except for the laundry room. That's on its own light switch because it's nice to have just a little extra light over there that you can turn on and off. But turn these on. Ta-da! Okay, so we've already talked about the spacing of these lights in the past videos, but we centered these above the sink, but we needed more light above the stove. So adding that little 4-inch LED really brightens up that area. And all of these dark spaces that you see up here will kind of go away once you get the cabinets set in place. And so that won't be as big of a deal. And there'll be a window in that hole, which will make the light more equal. So the next things we have to do on the list after getting that done is to build the rest of this wall here. That way we can put an outlet for the refrigerator. That way we can space the refrigerator where we need to. So we're putting an 18-inch cabinet here, a 30-inch cabinet here, so this refrigerator will slide over, but right now it can't because that outlet is too far away for the fridge to reach. And so once we get the new outlet in, then we can move the fridge over and then get all that finished. So like I was saying, we have to move over a 15-amp circuit of 14-2 wire. And the difference between 14-2 and 12,
just the thickness of the wire. So this is a little bit thinner. 12-2 is a little bit thicker. This is 14-2. This is enough to carry a certain amount of load, light and circuits, whatever. You can't put a lot on this, but you can do a living room outlets where you were just powering a TV, a DVD player, a fan, maybe a lamp or candle or Cincy, whatever you have. So that's pretty easy. You can only put so many on this. You'd have to look at your local code to see how many outlets you can stick on this. But there's this wire and then the yellow wire, which is up, a whole bunch of it's up there. That's 14-2, and you usually run that on like a 20-amp circuit, which is going to be powering the kitchen outlets. And the reason you're going with a bigger wire, 12-2, I might have said 14, but 12-2 is a bigger wire. As the numbers go down, they get thicker, is because there's gonna be a lot more on these outlets. So say a blender or a crock pot or anything that takes a lot of power is going to be on these kitchen circuits, which is a 20-amp circuit. The cool thing about breakers, though, let me say that real quick if I can bore you more to death, is that as long as your breaker is smaller than you need, it's going to trip. But if your breaker is if it's too big for your wire, then that can cause some issues because the breaker won't trip, which will cause your wires to heat up. And so if you're ever in a place where you're like, I don't know if I should use 14-2 or 12-2, it doesn't matter if you use a bigger wire because it will still transmit the power to the breaker, but you don't want a breaker that's too big for your wire because then it'll melt down your house. So keep that in mind. Ask an electrician, ask electrician's store what you need before you do it. So don't take my advice for it. Just know that different wires, different breakers, they're important, and you kind of should know which one to choose before you stick in because it's important. So anyways, let's move on to the next thing, which will probably be pulling that 15-amp circuit wire across here. I'll just do a quick time lapse for that for you guys. Pick up some more material like 2x4s, insulation, drywall, and maybe another outlet box or so. But before I do that, I wanted to explain why we took the route we did for the wire and why it's important and why it doesn't matter and all that stuff. So let me flip you around and show you the wire originating here. What's going to tie into that original wire. We'll have to put it in a box like this one where you can access it because it's going to be tied together, and if that circuit ever comes apart, you need to know where to be able to fix it. So there's a whole bunch of these wires that were dead ending that are in that box, and they tie to a new wire and go down into a breaker. So we'll put one of those boxes up there, and then that wire runs all the way across, all the way to that corner, and then across the inside. The reason I went across the inside instead of going on the other side to hide it is because I want to be able to staple it up there. You're supposed to staple it every 4 feet on a horizontal stapling method, whatever you want to call it, and then it cuts a corner there, it goes down inside the wall, but it goes down here, and once we get this wall built, they'll be going across, and then we'll tie this outlet, these outlets, into a new outlet here, and there'll be a new 20-amp dedicated for the refrigerator right here coming from that yellow wire there.
So that'll be pretty cool. So we got to do that, but the reason I didn't cut across from here and just straight across diagonally, that would save wire, but that would be a lot more holes to drill in the floor joist, which not necessarily going to weaken it enough to hurt anything, but I don't know. It was worth the extra 6 feet of wire to go that way and across than it was to drill all the holes and have a bunch of obstacles in the middle of the room that I'd have to deal with later if I did anything. So let's go get some materials, get back, build this, and then move on to the next project.
That's some copper. How you doing? Can you sit? Shake. 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 Good. Oh. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, where's my treat? Anyways, we are back from shopping. We've got the drywall insulation and all the other goods in the truck, and we'll get those later. We're gonna work on building that wall behind the fridge, but I cut a hole in the wall upstairs in the tenants and the A unit, unit A. That way we could access all the wires behind the new breaker panel. And so it's been cut out, but it hasn't been fixed. And so I need to go mud that, at least get one coat started today. That way tomorrow we can maybe mud and texture and paint it. That way it looks finished for the tenants up there. So I've got an old bucket of mud. Some of the top is crusty, but the bottom is good. So we just scrape out the bottom, or scrape out the top. That way we can use the bottom without getting any floaties, hard floaties in it. So anyways, I'm gonna do that real quick and I'll show you what it is up there. Up there. Okay, hopefully all those crusties are gone. I'm just gonna take my pan and put a scoop or two in there. And then we'll go upstairs and tape. Okay, so here's the patch job that I need done. You can tell that we cut the drywall out, and it's just the same exact piece that I cut out. And then we put it in one of those boxes I mentioned earlier where you have to have access to it. So it's a double gang box here with a bunch of wires feeding into it, and we'll put a blank cover on it, and it'll look as best as we can. Get this old tape torn off so it's nice and clean. So now I just need to put mud on it and then tape it. So I'll do that real quick. First coat, this is just general all-purpose mud, so it'll take a bit to dry, but we'll probably do 2 more coats anyway. So we'll let that sit, let it dry, and then we'll come back and texture it later. But we've got some mud left in the bucket, so I'm gonna go spin that on some other mud place real quick and get back to it. So we're actually gonna do a live video on that wall behind our refrigerator. So if you see a little gap here in the video and it just jumps to it being finished, that's why. That's the plan anyways, see if it happens. So tune in to the live video to see that wall being built. It's gonna be very boring, but if you could just let it play through, that would be awesome, because then I get some view hours. So anyways, more mudding, and we'll catch up with you after the wall is built. Well, good morning. Good morning. It is
the next day, of course. I'm wearing a long sleeve and a respirator or mask. And because I'm putting insulation in the ceiling, you can see we've already got some done up there. Hi, Copper. You want to join us? And so I'm working on putting that up. But the reason I didn't start out showing you guys was because I wanted to get used to it before I was showing you how to do it. So putting insulation on the ceiling is a little more difficult than hanging it on the wall, because on the wall you can kind of place it there, tack it, and the gravity just holds it. But on the ceiling you gotta kind of walk it back and then staple it. If you're doing it neatly, somewhat like that. This isn't for cold to hot insulation, so it's not worried about temperature. It's more about the sound from upstairs transferring from upstairs to downstairs when they're walking around. So it's not super important to fill every gap, because we're just trying to catch those sound waves. So anyways, I'm putting up on a time lapse and hoping we get some more insulation done, preferably the whole room, and then we come back through and drywall it. So that's the plan. So here we go. Okay, I do want to mention that this is R13 Faced Insulation, and so this is used for walls. You can use it for ceilings, it's not a big deal. The meaning by faced is it has paper on one side, that way you can staple it to stuff. They have non-faced insulation, and they also have insulation hangers that you can use. It's like a rod, a piece of metal, and you just push it up in between the two joists, and it will kind of bow out, and it'll hold the insulation in, so you don't have to worry about stapling. That's a good way to do it. That's not the way I'm doing it today, but you can do it that way. So let's get to the insulating.
So if you're following the channel closely, you'll know that I've been posting live videos this week. I did the first one and it was pretty awful. I had the old phone out and microphone was terrible, but it really wasn't being done for the quality of the videos. It was being done just for the view time. So that's what we did today as well. And so if you watched that, you watched me put in the insulation in this entire room. And so surprise, if you're just watching this video, but not that one, then you'll be surprised. But we got the insulation in all the way from this side of the room all the way to that side of the room, and it looks pretty nice. Again, this is just for sound, so we're not worried about filling every little gap, but we did a pretty good job, I would say. So now we just got to go do the bathroom, and I've got the bathroom all cleaned out so we don't put insulation fiberglass into our towels or into washcloths or shower curtains or anything. So again, we'll have to drywall this too, but insulating the ceiling and maybe the walls is what's up next. So let's get to it. I'll pull the insulation here, stapler, and put my respirator mask on thing and start nailing it up. Okay, insulation, staple hammer, respirator. Probably not how you say that in Spanish, but it sounds pretty good. And earplugs, because I'm going to be banging around. Here we go. Just like that, the bathroom's done. I say just like that, but it probably took me just as long to do this as it did the kitchen. Not really. Maybe not that much. So we got insulation where we can, just staple to the rafters or to the floor joist. And then where it comes to like the ducting, the heating that goes up to, this is the upstairs bathroom ductwork. It's insulated on all sides and on top if possible. And then, let me just turn you around. And then anywhere there's a pipe or an obstruction, we try to tuck it in around it. So pipe there, you can see this is like a black hole, that's black pipe. And yeah, it's filled in as best as possible. So hopefully that will silence
lots of the traveling noise between here and the upstairs bathroom. So now all we have to do is clean. Yuck. And while I'm cleaning, I'm going to show you how to put this in. This is the vent cover for the vent. It comes with these 2 little spring-loaded clips. You just spring load them together like this, and they have 2 slots, and they slide up. That's how most of them are done nowadays. So just stick it in the slot, which you can't see, but trust me, there's a slot. Yeah. One more. And then you just push it up. It locks in place. Probably should have showed you that a little better, but you're smart. You got this. So now I just have to get the broom and get all of this insulation. That way the puppy doesn't eat it. So probably do that to the whole house. The only thing we have left to insulate, I said this is probably the last room, but we've actually got to insulate the rest of the hallway upstairs that divides the hallways from the units. So we'll go do that real quick while we're still on our insulating plan and insulating outfit, and then we can maybe do drywall tomorrow because Copper needs to go on a walk. So we'll take him on a walk and get this place cleaned up. It is a mess, just everywhere, and that is not fun for my wife. So we're gonna try to put it back together, get it cleaned up, make it look snazzy. But this is quite a bit of dirt just from doing a little bit of work in here. So anyways, let's go do the hallway real quick. This is the hallway. This is what we got left. We've got this insulated and 1 sheet of drywall up because that's what I had the other day, so I was just messing around. But now we get to insulate the rest of that, which is going to be substantially easier than doing the ceiling. So let's knock this out real quick and see what else we can get into. And in a couple seconds, we are finished. We've got everything insulated in the hallway, so now all we gotta do is come back and finish the drywalling, which is nice, and then we'll mud, tape, texture, paint, and then we're gonna stick new flooring down here. Let me adjust you a bit, sorry for the noise. Down there, it will match the same flooring as that's downstairs, of course, and then the treads will be replaced with actual treads and some risers, so it'll look nice. But that's not on the important list right now. So as a recap, we insulated that. We insulated the bathroom, ceiling, ready to go. We insulated the kitchen area and dining room and mudroom all in the same. So that's looking nice, exciting. I think we added this light in this video. It's been so long. I've been doing this video for so long, I feel like I'm forgetting what we've done. We did pull the 15 amp circuit from there to there, and we built that wall. So pretty cool. And then we did a patch upstairs, which I have to do another coat on later. But I think I'm going to cut the video there because it's probably getting really long, and I need to post something with some quality to it. That way you can guys have something to see, something to watch with the family. So anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to look in the links and descriptions below as always. And can't wait to see you guys next time. Have a good one. God bless.